Top 3% nationwide earner, right? Is that right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
Told you.
Well, it depends. It's top 3% in nation, or top 1% nationwide, top 3 in statewide.
What's going on, you guys? So today you're going to watch an interview I did with Sean Ray a couple of months back. And Sean Ray is a buddy of mine. He's actually a realtor, and not just any realtor. He's a top 3 nationwide earner. When you see him right now, you might think like, man, he's probably always had it put together, but he actually didn't get into real estate until he was like 27, 28, like his late 20s. And before that, he was actually homeless and didn't even have enough money for food or his own place or anything. So his story really is inspiring to me. So I hope you guys enjoy watching this episode, and let's jump in. Alrighty, welcome to another episode of The Come Up. I'm here with Mr. Sean Ray from Sean Ray Realty. And Sean right here is actually a real estate agent and a real estate investor. And he's not just any real estate agent, he's like a top 3.
Top 3?
Dang. Wait, yeah. Top 3 what?
So my income is in the top 1% of real estate agents nationwide, but statewide is 3%.
Gotcha.
Because Texas has better real estate than nationwide. Like there's areas anyways, yeah, because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. All right, cool. So yeah, I guess this podcast is gonna be mostly on your real estate career and your rise to all that.
Sure.
So I want to take it back. to like when most people are like scared and they feel like they gotta have everything figured out. You know, like when you're graduating from high school. Mm-hmm. So tell us about that time. Like, what was your mind state in there, and like where were you at?
Let's go way back. High school.
Yeah.
So high school, I was a total nerd. Like I only had like 2 friends, and I'm still friends with those guys. It was Pierce and Jared.
Yeah.
And so when I graduated high school, I was really like jazzed up about the idea because I knew I had to go to college, just because I had to go to college. There's no other reason. Like I wasn't passionate about anything. Uh-huh. It's just.
Is it something that your parents ingrained in you or something?
Yeah, I mean, if the idea of me not going to college is like, what was I going to do? Was I going to work at GameStop? Yeah. Just because I was going to get free games? So I really didn't have like any other plan. I was like, but by the time I graduate college, I should have a plan. And so my plan was just to go find a plan. So that's why I went to college. But at the same time, I didn't have any money. My parents didn't come from money, and I didn't come from money either.
Well, what did your parents do?
So my dad was a engineer, but not really an engineer. He worked for Raytheon Electrospace and stuff like that, but he wasn't like one of those super rich ones. He just was like a normal dude that worked there. And then my mom was. She worked like part-time at the pharmacy, but she was making like $10, $12 an hour or something like that. So between the both of them combined income, then I think they brought in like $70K a year or something like that to raise 2 kids. And then he had other 2 kids, and then they had massive debt and stuff like that from previous marriages. And so like it's crazy to think that people in America would scrape by with $70,000 a year, but it's true. You can barely get by. So anyways, I graduated high school, and then because we didn't have a lot of money, I just decided to go to community college because I could work part-time as like a waiter and then take that money to pay off my classes because it was only like $500 per class or something like that. Uh-huh. I went to Collin County Community College over in Plano, Texas.
Okay. So the whole time you were just experimenting, and how long did it take before you like actually found real estate? Like, was it a while?
Oh man, it's like if you want to go way back, then we would have to go tell this in like long decades worth of story. Right. But it takes until 2016, I think. Right. 2016 until 2012, 2013 until I found real estate.
So I remember last time you told me you were telling me you kind of have an advantage because you had come from like a sales job.
Yeah.
So I guess tell me about that time. Like, was that your first sales job?
No. So I worked as a waiter when I was 15, 16. And then I stayed a waiter for a long time, then bounced between being a waiter and working at Best Buy. So I found at Best Buy that I'm just really good at selling stuff because I don't necessarily ever sell something. I just tell people, like, you know, the solutions to what they want. So if they come to your section, say for instance, TV section,
Right.
and then they're there to buy a TV, and so your job is to ask the questions to figure out exactly what they want, and then you're just like, well, here's your solution. It's not so much like, hey, you need to buy this. It's just like, hey, you're an idiot if you don't, because why would you go to a restaurant and order food? I mean, why'd you go to the restaurant and not order food? Like, you're here for a reason.
Right.
So my job is to help you figure out what it is. And so that's how I figured out that I was pretty good at sales in general, and that helped out with the ladies in college and stuff like that too. It's like, hey, you're at a party for a reason. Like, what do you want? I can help you out with that.
Yeah, that's what I find. It's mostly like just being able to like, well, not persuade, but like, because they already have that desire in them. So just kind of like show them that they already have that desire in them and like make it seem to them, right?
Yeah, the strangest thing to me is whenever I see people on the internet or in books and stuff like that teach like sales courses, it's very much like a sense of persuasion and like a pushiness and like a forcing your will on others. And that's a weird way to sell. I've never sold like that. I try to do very much of a hands-off approach of just like you're the one that wants it. I'm just trying to help you out. It's like, well, I don't even know if I want it. Like, well, yeah, you do. You said you wanted it. Like,
yeah.
You're just second-guessing yourself. And it's like, well, am I second-guessing myself? But yeah, so that's how I figured out that I was good in sales. And then in college, I was studying psychology for a long time, and then I bounced around a PR because someone's like, "Yo, you'd be good in PR, public relations."
So
then I switched over to public relations, and I thought someone like a counselor or something like that, like convinced me what it was basically I just go out and I'm in the public life and I go to parties and events and I set things up and I'm like an event planner.
Right.
And that sounded cool. I was like, man, that sounds like cool life. I get paid
Like
just to
in
party.
college? Or?
No, like for a long career. But that's what the counselor in college told me to switch from psychology to that. So then I did, and then I actually found out PR is nothing like that. PR is just basically working your ass off, or can I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. It's all, you can talk whatever you want here.
Working your tush off. But just working really hard and just basically making press releases. That's all I was doing, is I was basically just writing press releases all the time. And then after college, I already had a thing lined up after college, which I graduated 2009. And that's when like everything crashed. And the first thing that goes whenever the market crashes is like advertisements, marketing agencies and stuff like that. They cut down on their marketing massively. And so I was left without a job. And so I had a guaranteed job in Dallas. That's why I moved to Dallas initially. I don't know if you knew that, but I was living in Austin, having a time of my life. I love Austin.
Yeah.
And I moved to Dallas to join the Richards Group, which is a PR firm. They already signed me up and everything when I moved here. Then they're like, sorry, we cut everybody. And I'm like, I sold all my stuff. I got a lease. Like, I got a lease because of your qualification letter. And they're like, sorry. And so then I had to start. I was a nightclub promoter in college. So I started promoting nightclubs in Dallas, or in Addison. And that's how I made my due. I was working a waiting job during the day, and then I was nightclubbing at night.
I mean, I feel like being a nightclub promoter sounds kind of cool, but is it kind of cool or not?
It's awesome until you get to a certain age.
Yeah.
Like, it's awesome until you're like 25, 26. And then that's whenever you're like, man, I gotta like get a real life. I can't be doing this all day, all night. Like this is a lifestyle.
So what does that consist of, like being a nightclub promoter? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, no, it's a hell of a life, man. And if you're the kind of person that can do it, and if you're young enough to do it, it's great. It's awesome, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
But basically, all you do is you go out on the days you're not promoting. Say for instance, if you're starting out, for all those that are listening right now that want to get into nightclub promoting, the way that you do it is you go out to a struggling business or struggling club, bar, restaurant, whatever it is, and you're like, hey, can I have a night? Can I have Wednesdays? I'm just going to bring in 20 people or 10 people, and if I do that, can I get like $100 bar tab and then maybe some free appetizers? And they're like, yeah, go for it. And then you do that, and you're like, can I do that again next week? Because they're like, wow, that was great. We got all those sales. We normally have like $300 in sales that night. Now we had like 1,000.
So how do you prove to them that that you brought those people in? They just say it, or you're like, hey, these guys.
It's a dead night. If you go into a place like, say,
that's hella dead.
Yeah, it's just dead. And so he's like, for me, it was a sushi bar. It was next to in Addison. It was next to this bar we always went to called Sherlock's.
Right.
We always walk by and we're like, we're gonna start the night with sushi and then go to Sherlock's and party our butts off.
Yeah.
And then we're realizing like we're the only people in the sushi bar. And I was like, what if we just bring the people that we take to Sherlock's into this bar first, and then we get free sushi, and then from there we'll go into there.
Yeah.
So I was like, we'll bring in 20, 30 people if you give me free sushi. And then they're like, all right. I was like, we'll bring in 40, 50 people if you give us free alcohol and sushi. And then it was like, we can bring in 150 people if you pay us $500. And then eventually, yeah, and then it just grew up to the point to where I was like, all right, and so we're going to take 20% of your bar tab, and we're going to have a $500 flat fee, plus we're going to do a $5 cover at the door, and we want free sushi. And then, but by the time that we were done, we were bringing in like 300 people on like a Wednesday.
Who's we?
So it started off with me, and then my roommate at the time, he jumped on board because he's just all about the ladies, and he started noticing, he's like, there's a lot of ladies around you now that you're doing this nightclub promoting thing. So what we would do is, and then my buddy Brandon Hawkins, and we started having more and more people part of the team to help grow it. But so I'd pay them to go out on like Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, or whatever it is that we're not promoting. They were not like actually there at the nightclub place or at the sushi bar or whatever. And then we would go out to all the other places and we just go get numbers like mad. Like our goal each night would try to get 20 numbers for all the most attractive girls that we could see at the bar. And it wasn't like, hey girl, what's your number? It was like, hey, we want you to come to our place on Thursday or on Wednesday. We're gonna have a lingerie night at this bar. I'll give you free sushi, free drinks, and then if you do a good job that night, and then you bring in a lot of your girls, then I'll give you free comp tab. Maybe give you $50, $100, something like that. Yeah. And the girl's like, damn, all right. What's your number? All right, here it is. And next thing you know, we have like droves of women coming in, and then if you have like 60, 70 hot girls coming in, then you're going to have the guys that come along with it that pay a lot of money for alcohol. And so, that makes sense. That's how you become a nightclub promoter. But anyways, that wasn't what got me into real estate. The real estate thing was I ended up opening up my own nightclub because people saw what I was doing in Addison. So they came from Las Vegas and they were like, man, you're like the up and coming guy.
What was that called, that nightclub?
Which one?
I mean, you said you opened up your own?
Yeah, Bella 32. And so I was a part of 4 partners that opened that up. And then I was so excited at the time. I was like, and it was beautiful. The place we were going to open up was amazing. Yeah. It looked like Vegas because they came from Vegas. And like, we're going to make a Vegas nightclub here. And then I invested a lot of my time into that, a lot of my money, and then I went broke. And then there was so much that went wrong with that nightclub, and it just bombed. And then that's a long story in itself, but that got me introduced to MLM, network marketing, pyramid scheme kind of stuff called ACN. And then that's where my whole life changed. And so I learned so much about everything.
How old were you at this time when you went in there?
This is 2010, 2011, something like that. It's 2010. I think it's like 2010. Yeah. And so, I think I joined ACN around 2010, 2011. 2010, I don't know.
But how old were you?
I was, so that was 9 years ago. So, man, I don't know. So I was 25, 26 around that time.
Okay.
Something like that. And so this guy is like, hey man, what if you can get paid whenever people pay their bills? Like every time they pay their bills. Like that sounds pretty cool because people pay their bills every month. That sounds residual. He's like, and then you could find other people that do the same thing and you get paid whenever their customers pay their bills. It's like, that sounds like a genius idea. Why wouldn't everybody do this?
Right.
He's like, right? No, all I got to find is like 3 people. And then they'll find 3 people and they'll find 3 people. I was like, yeah, I could do that. I got like hundreds of people. I'm a nightclub promoter.
Yeah.
And then that was the first time I've experienced like that kind of business. I didn't know how difficult it really was.
Right.
But I grew quickly and I started learning about public speaking. So I was on stage doing trainings, and I had, in the first month or 2, I recruited like 70 to 150 people or something like that, which is a lot. If anybody knows about like personally recruiting that many people is absurd. Most people like have a hard time recruiting 3 or 4 people.
I know. What's your secret, bro?
I just was. Oh yeah, so like the way that you're successful in a nightclub promoting is you spend the entire day texting people. You're basically mass texting people like all the time.
Coming
like,
away.
No, it's not even that. It's just like, hey, what's up? And like you just send that to like 100 people. Hey, what's up? And then you start these conversations and you have like these prompts. And like, what are you up to today? Like, oh man, you should be at the pool. It's a good day today. And you send that to all these people. Yeah. And so you're having all these like in-depth conversations, but you're doing it with like 100 people at a time. And so like it's authentically unauthentic because you're building these relationships, but you're building them in mass quantities. And so then you have like 100 people that feel like they're really close, attached to you, friends. Yeah. And then that way, whenever you're like, hey, come meet me at the bar on Wednesday, we're gonna have free sushi. I want you to help me out with this.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? And it's so weird. It reminds me of this one church. Because I feel like churches do the same strategy, you know?
Churches are nothing, like they're 100% nightclub promoting and 100% just like network marketing. Because it's like, exactly. Hey, you should go out and find 3 friends to bring to the service on Sunday.
Yeah, it's like the same strategy except for a different goal, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Instead of recruiting them to join a business, you're recruiting them to join heaven, I guess.
Yeah. Damn.
But yeah, so I got super obsessed with this ACN idea. So when I stopped doing the nightclub promoting, I stopped doing everything. I just went full in on it. And then I ended up spending a lot of money. And then I went into debt, more debt than I already was in. And then and eventually I had to get, I was so sold on this. I was like, I'm all in, man. And so I ended up moving.
Work out.
I moved in with my parents, and I was like 27 at the time, living with my parents, like barely struggling to get by. And then I was like, this will work out, I promise. And then one day I was like, man, my parents are like actually paying for me to live. It's like, I can't do this. And that's whenever I drove to Houston. I was like, I'm starting over. And then that's when I lived down in my car for a long time. And that's when I was doing like the Barnes & Noble thing that I was telling you about, that I would go to Barnes & Noble just to get free air conditioning. And that's when I would start reading about real estate books, investing books, like positive mindset, law of affirmation, or law of attraction books.
What would you say some of like your most influential books were that you read at that time?
Well, I mean, there's so many, man. I think that the one that really got my mind, Rich Dad Poor Dad started. That's nowadays it's kind of like a book, but it is important for people to start with that book because it's transformative at the time.
Yeah.
You don't know how bad it is because it's like the only thing you read, and you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's how it was for me. Like I feel like a lot of young people, they don't read, you know.
Yeah.
So like for a lot of people, they kind of heard of it. Maybe they seen it on like the shelves. When they would actually read it, they're like, "What the heck? This is crazy."
Yeah,
that's how it was for me.
So then the compound effect was really good.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I liked the idea about that, and then the attractor factor. It's such a cheesy book, but it really helped get things in my life in order. And then I like all the Wayne Dyer stuff. That really got my mind right. And then what is it? Whatever. It's the 4 quadrants from Robert Kiyosaki. He talks about the 4, whatever it is. But he talks about the different quadrants. And I started realizing, oh yeah, there's 4 quadrants. There's employees, there's self-employed, there's big business, and then there's investors. And your goal is to move through that as fast as possible, get to investor.
Right.
Because that's where you're free. You're never free until you get to the I. Even big business, even our buddy Sean, he's a B. And that's not what I ever want to be, is a B. I want to be an I.
Yeah, I gotcha. So at that time you're like, all right, I got to do something to start hitting that way.
Yeah. So long story long, that's at that point in my life, I was rough, man. I was living out of my car. It was gross. I had one pair of clothes.
How do you shower?
So apartment complexes. So they have pools, and so they have like, especially like these, they're called garden styles. They just have like a gate, and then you just get in the gate and you just swim. And so like, I convinced myself that my life was awesome because you have to. You know, sometimes you just have to tell yourself that you live an awesome life. Yeah. It's like, man, screw this whole job thing. I'm like, man, I get to hang out at Barnes & Noble, read whatever I want. And then I get to hang out at the pool. Yeah, I need to hang out at the pool because I need to swim to clean myself. But I'm just chilling at the pool all day, reading books, like get my suntan on, and then going out and applying for jobs. But But yeah, that's basically what it was. I just was, I was even using their workout gyms. And so I was in there like lifting weights at these apartment complexes that I don't live at, and swimming in the pools to get clean. But yeah, man, it was weird. It's weird to even think that that's my life. Like going back.
No, you're so crazy.
I know, just thinking about it now is like, damn, I used to do this. But yeah, so one of the things that I'm so blessed for is that I started really getting into law of attraction, and so I was like manifesting all these like positive things in my life.
Yeah.
And then I was reading about real estate and real estate investing a lot. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to get in real estate, but I have no idea how. And so I started thinking about it. And then at the time, I was even writing down on note cards like what I want to manifest, and so that I'd constantly write down what I want to manifest throughout my day. And I would keep it in my back pocket, and I would look at it. Like as I'm driving, I'll be like driving with one hand and like staring at the note card in the other hand. Just always on my mind. I just wanted to. I had this big belief that Darren Hardy said that or he said it, or he took it for somebody else. I don't know, but he says that each day you fill your cup up with water, and it's up to you what kind of water you want. Like fill it up with pure, delicious water, and at night you have to drink it, or muddy, gross, disgusting water. But either way, you have to drink it at night. Yeah. And so I just wanted to fill it up with the clearest water possible, and that's what my vision was to get started in real estate. So I was out at the bar one night, and of course I didn't have any money at the time, and so I'll go to the bar almost every night to network because that's all I knew. But I would be drinking water. And so
what was your goal in this networking? Like just try to find a job maybe or something?
Well, I'm a big believer in that that law of attraction is real. I still believe it's real. I don't practice it at all anymore because I kind of got what I wanted out of life. Yeah. But,
I mean, you do a little bit. I think I heard Sean say that you have like your goals, or you did.
The difference between, there's goals, like the attractor factor, like the law of attraction versus just having goals are two very different things. Yeah. You should always have goals, but it's one thing in really focusing and trying to attract it.
Like kind of like visualizing and like kind of like the Think and Grow Rich
visualizing. Yeah, Think and Grow Rich for sure. Napoleon Hill, all the way. And so that was another great book. But anyway, so then I would go out, because if you just sit at home and meditate about like, I want $1 million, I want $1 million, then it's just not going to happen. Yeah. But you have to get out and play. Like life is a game. You got to get it and play in the game. And so by going out to bars, it started conversations with people, and I would be like, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Just constantly just asking. And eventually someone was going to say, well, you know what? I'm in real estate, and I'm looking for a guy just like you. Yeah. And I'll pay for everything to get you started, and then I'll give you your first couple leads, and you'll be successful. And I was like, that's going to happen one day. And so for like 2 or 3 months, I just went out and just started conversations. And then one day I bumped into this guy named Brent, and it was 100% that. He just like, I'm in real estate. I tried to flirt with this girl that he was with, wonderful girl named Lauren, way out of my league. I was, at the time, I had a hole in I had my dress up shoes were like black lace dress up. I only had one pair of shoes again at the time. Yeah. And then like the separation between the sole and the foot would flop. Like it would be like,
your shoe was hella talking.
I would have to, yeah, exactly. I heard that before, it's true. And I would have to walk heel to toe, because if I walk anything like that, then it would catch. Yeah. I still remember to this day that. So anyways, so I would walk up to this chick, and I was like, I need to talk to this girl. She's like an angel. Yeah. She, like everyone else in the bar was doing their thing, but it seemed like she was glowing. Like, I was like, this girl is like my dream girl, but I have no idea what I'm gonna offer her. I can't even offer I got bread, girl. You like bread? Yeah. I got bread and water. How do you feel about that? I can take you out to eat for crackers. But yeah, I talked to her and I bombed. Later on in life, though, we revisited that idea and it went well. But yeah, Brent was like, dude, that was embarrassing. He's like, you should get a drink. Let me buy you a drink. And so from there, we just sparked up a conversation, and within a month, he paid for my real estate license. He straight up paid, like not, hey, I'll do this if you pay me back. He was like, you deserve a shot at life. And he's like, I've got money, you don't. To me, a couple $1,000s is nothing. He's like, I got you covered. He paid for all my classes, my courses, my tests to get started. He even got me a job at the company that he was at, which I'm still at, just because I'm too loyal to go anywhere else. Yeah.
So what exactly do you think it was that he saw in you that made him want to pay?
I was hungry, man. I was hungry. As
Like
Les
ambitious?
Brown.
Or actually literally hungry?
Yeah, both. Check out Les Brown, man. He's got a great thing about being hungry. But I was, man. I was just like a fidgety, like, oh, I just need it. I need the test. I need it. He's like, dude, chill out. I was like a crackhead without crack. And he's like, I got crack, dude. Just chill. Like, I got this. I was also at the time still doing the ACN stuff. And so I was driving hard on ACN. Like, I used to do this thing, which is insane. I don't recommend anyone else to do this, but it worked, I guess. No, it didn't, because I was broke. But I would do this thing where I would ask for 20 numbers a day. I would put 20 new numbers in my phone a day, and I wouldn't eat food until I got it. And so, again, it's psyching myself out because I didn't have access to food anyways, but I wouldn't eat food until I got $20, or 20 numbers.
Yeah.
And so I would go out to the mall, and I'd start conversations with people at the mall. I'd go to, like, coffee shops and just start conversations with people at coffee shops. Like, I would just go anywhere in the world that there were people. And then when I started recruiting people, I'd take them with me, and I'd be like, you need to go out and talk to that person. And we'd be at, like, the food court at the mall, and they would sit down and be like, hey, what are you eating? I'm like, oh, that's cool, awesome, you look really sharp. Yeah, awesome, you like money? All right, you want to make some extra money? Let me tell you about what we do. And then, like, they sit down and just, like, start doing a meeting, like, right there on the spot. And these people are like, I am, like, on my lunch break. I only got, like, 5 minutes. And, like, good, I'm going to get you for 5 minutes. I'm just going to let you. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Would you say you were good at? You were good at recruiting because you got, like, 70 people. But I feel like some people, they kind of, I don't know, they just kind of suck at that. Because, like, I've had some of those people come up to me. And one time I was at Target. And I was just chilling. And I was that person that just gives you the cart. Like, the easiest job in the world. And then some dude came up to me. He's like, hey, man, how you doing? You look like you're a good worker. And I already knew he was, like, bullshitting me. Because I'm like, I'm just standing here.
Yeah, he was like, yeah. Like, such a weird way to start a conversation. Yeah. You look like you're a good worker.
So, like, for you, like, do you feel like you were always just naturally, like, good at, you know, just having people comfortable around you? Or?
I was really good at selling the vision for sure. Because I believed in it. But once I got them in, I was really bad about, like, I still am not a good leader. And like our mutual friend Sean Rakajich, great leader. Like, he can lead an army, and then people will be passionate about what they're doing. For me, it's like, I'm the guy. I shouldn't be the general. I should be the guy on the field telling people, let's go, like, let's attack. That's me. But I'm not the one that people should aspire to be, per se, and then live their life in my, because I don't want that, you know. I never did. I never wanted to be like the guy that was like, do everything I do everything I say, and you can be this. But I just wanted to do me. That's it. I wanted to be free. I wanted to do me, and I didn't want anyone to ever tell me what to do. And then having a system of command and leadership and being a part of that, that's where it failed for me, because I would have to be in a system of command, and I just hate that. I just want to do my thing, just be left alone.
It sounds like real estate, being a real estate agent is exactly like what you want.
That.
Like for those people who I guess don't know, like, how would you describe, like, the career of a real estate agent? Like, if somebody asked you, like, what do real estate agent people do, what would you tell them?
So that's why whenever Brent got me started, it was incredible, because I kept on treating it as if it was a job, because I always, like, this is my shot. This is my chance. I'm almost 30 years old at this point, like 28. And I was like, I'm going to go to the office. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I'm going to read books about real estate. I'm going to just read all the articles about real estate and the real estate news, and then, like, everything. I was just trying to consume as much as possible, and then get to the office by 7 every morning, and then stay until they kick me out at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and then just work. That's what I thought it was. And I did it for the first year, which was successful. I made, like, within my first 12 months, I made like over $100,000, which is a very difficult thing, especially I didn't sell a single home. It was just all apartments. So I just leased a bunch of apartments.
Actually, let's go back to when he paid for your thing. Because, like, I just kind of, like, want to show, like, the process of what it's like to become a real estate agent. Because, like, my little sister actually, like, studying, like, to, like, pass her real estate license or whatever. So, like, he paid for you to take the test, basically, right?
Take the courses and the test. Yeah.
Was that hard for you, like, the test?
So when you are alone in the woods and you haven't ate in like 3 weeks, then would it be hard for you to chase down a deer for food? Like, no. Like, you would do it because you have to. Like, you would do whatever it takes because you need to eat. Would you right now go chase down a deer for multiple days in the woods to eat? Probably not. You'd be like, I'm not that. No, I'm fine. It's a lot of work. I don't want to do that. At the time, I was starving. And so, like, literally and figuratively and everything like that, spiritually. And so he said there was a shot. And I was like, okay, this is my shot. And so so just to give you a state of mind where I was at, like, I normally hover around 160 to 170 in weight. At the time, I was like 130 something. And so I was just like emaciated.
Yeah.
And I still had access to Adderall though, so that's funny. I don't know how that worked. But at the time, he's like, all right, I'll pay for your courses. And so I just ate a bunch of Adderall and I studied, and I didn't sleep for like 3 days. Like I might have slept, but I don't remember sleeping at that time. Then if I did, it was very short. And I remember being like at the time we didn't have any furniture in the apartment. So there was like a 3-bedroom apartment that at this time I found someone at a networking event that let me stay with them at their apartment.
Right.
Before that, I was staying at this other guy's place that I met at a networking event on his tile floor in his kitchen. Like, I was sleeping on his tile floor in his kitchen. That was weird. And they were also they're like Dianetics. They're like they're Scientology people. Anyways, so I was sleeping on the floor in this 3-bedroom apartment with like 8 people. There's 8 people in there, and we were all sharing this place.
Damn.
I remember being on the carpet with just my shorts on, no shirt, no anything like that, just my shorts. I remember just like in a turtle position on the carpet with like the reading material. And I was on the ground just reading it and like rocking back and forth because I took too much Adderall. And I'm just like fidgeting back and forth. But I'm like ingesting all this information. And it's supposed to take weeks and weeks and weeks, but I did all the course material in like a weekend, in like 3 days. And I found this hack online. It doesn't exist anymore, but I found this hack online that it was like a way, because you have to like time out the courses, but there was a way to get around that, and then basically just have the tests. Like, instead of doing all the courses online, it just skips you straight to the test. And so I just study the hell out of the material and just take the test. Study the hell, take the test. And then I failed the test, the final test.
You failed it?
So you have to take all the courses, and then all the courses have course end tests and stuff like that. So I did that, but then I failed the actual. I passed there's 2-part of test. I passed the first part the first time, and then I failed the second part. And the second time I went to go take it, I failed the first part, not the second, or something like that. So I failed twice, and then 3 times. If you have 3 times to take it, and if you don't pass it the 3rd time, then you have to like wait 6 months. And so I was like, this is supposed to be like, I attracted this into my life. It's supposed to be my path. It's supposed to be like, I was like second guessing everything. Like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like,
you just think you didn't study hard enough, or why do you?
I don't have a good brain.
You don't have a good brain.
And so on the final, I passed it, and it was so nerve-wracking, because that last time I went in there to take the test, I was like, oh dear God, I don't know if I can. At that point in my life, I was like, I don't know if I can survive another 6 months. Like, at that point, I was about to get fired from the job I was working at a restaurant, and the only reason why I chose that job, because that was one of the only ones that would hire me, and they allowed me to eat free soup and rice. And so I was so gross, man, back in the day, since I had nothing. I was eating off of people's plates. And so like I would ask people before they were done with their stuff. Like, as soon as I put the plate down, and then like I would wait and see if they weren't really paying. Like, would you like me to take your plate, sir? Like, no, I'm still eating it. Like, okay. And I'll go back, like, would you like me to take your plate, sir? And then eventually, like, all right, fine. And I'd take them, like, yes, chicken tenders. Like, untouched chicken tenders were just, like, gold for me at that time. Fries were gold. Just because, whatever. So anyways, what was my point? My point was that, so I didn't know if I was going to last another 6 months. And so at that time, it was really terrifying. If I didn't pass that test, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done to this day. I mean, I guess I would have just found another job and just tried again 6 months later, but it was rough.
Yeah.
But I passed it, and then I got started immediately.
That's crazy that, I guess I'm sure there's some people that go in there and they pass it the first time, but like, but I think the average I heard like net income of a real estate agent in their first 2 years or the first year is like $7,000.
Yeah, it's something
like
really low. And the average income for most real estate agents is like 30,000, like 28 to 30,000, something like that.
And you did it like 6 figures in like your first year, right?
Yeah, first 12 months. So I gotta be totally honest, it wasn't my first year because I started in August. And so when people are like, you, it was your first year, I'm like mentally, I'm like, yeah, but technically it was from August to August. It wasn't from August to January 1st, which, yeah, of course, I mean, everyone knows that, but to me, it's important. Like,
yeah.
It wasn't 2012 or whenever it was, like, I started. It was, like, technically 2012 to 2013 is when I did it. But, yeah, it was funny to see my tax returns. The year before, it was, like, a couple $1,000s. Like, I lived off of, like, $3,000, $4,000, something like that. Something really low.
Damn.
My tax returns, like, the year before real estate, and then the next year it was like over 100, and I was like, or right around, it was like 70, 80, something like that, because I made the previous year like the 20, but then whatever, it's complicated the way that things work. But yeah, it was pretty wild.
I mean, take me, like, your first house that you ever sold, like, how was that? Tell me that story.
It was maybe 3 years into real estate until I sold a house.
So what were you doing?
So for me, what I did is I researched what's the fastest way to make money. Like what is
as a real estate agent?
What is the fastest way as a real estate agent to make money? Like what can I do? What can I dive into right away? Because I need money tomorrow, like today, yesterday. And the guy Brent was telling me it's all about leases, man. Like just go out there. Like the home thing is terrifying for a lot of people. Like it's a conversation people don't want to have. But apartments is a conversation everybody wants to have. And so every time you go out, you just ask people, where do you live? Like, hey, blah, 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 I'm Sean, what's up, how you doing? Ask basic questions about themselves. And then eventually like, oh yeah, I just moved over here, over at this place, where do you live? And then if people live in an apartment complex, like, oh, I live over here at blanky blank. And you're like, oh, that's nice, I like that spot. How long you been there for? And they're like, you're asking qualifying questions because they say, I just moved there. And you're like, oh, that's great. In your mind, check. And then you're like, okay, I got to put this for like, who else do you know that lives there, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or you just start to grow their network through them. But if they say, oh, I moved there like a year ago or so, like, oh, you moved there about how, like 9 months ago?
Yeah.
But you start asking all these questions, and then once you realize that their lease is probably coming up in the next 2 or 3 months, then you're like, oh, you're going to stay there? Where are you going to go after that? And then you just plant the seed of doubt already. Like, well, I didn't think about moving, but yeah, I guess if I were to move, like, would you stay in that area or would you go somewhere else? I guess I would check out like this other place in town. Like, oh man, there's this one apartment complex over there. It's awesome. Have you checked that out? It's like $1,200 a month for a 1-bedroom. What are you paying now? Like $13, $14? Like, yeah. It's like, yeah, man, there's this other place over here. It's way better. It's like $1,200. It's in the area you're talking about. I do apartment locating. Oh, you do? Yeah. That place is doing like a month free right now. Like, I'm just saying, like, if you're interested, I can send you information. And then you just do that conversation over and over and over again.
So you help them out. People that are looking for apartments, you help them out for free, basically.
Yep.
And then you hook them up with this apartment, but you have a deal with that apartment. They give you a cut or something like that. How does that work?
All apartment complexes in Texas, at least for I know in Houston, Austin, Dallas, have some kind of commission structure set up for all agents. You don't have to specifically set it up yourself. Like all agents get paid a certain amount per apartment complex.
That makes sense.
And a majority of apartment complexes do, you get 1 month's rent. And so like you get 100% of 1 month's rent. So if it's $1,200 for that conversation I had at the bar, literally a conversation at the bar, and they go and they lease it like in the next week, and you go show them, then I make $1,200. And so that's a $1,200 conversation. And if you talk about the time, the hours spent, then I'm already out talking to people. I'm already enjoying my life. And so that's a 15-minute conversation. And then say, for instance, I drive him to that apartment complex the next day, and it takes an hour to tour it, and he leases right there. Then I made $1,200 like in an hour and a half of work.
Damn.
And so I would just stack those. And I would do that like 10, 15 times a month. Or I'd do like 10 or 15 leases a month. Some of them will be $1,200, and some of them, I've had leases that are over $6,000, $7,000 because they're doing 150% commission or 200% commission of 1 month's rent.
Yeah. When you say it like that, it sounds super easy. But it's not super easy.
No.
Because like, if you told me, like when you first started doing the real estate thing, you were like, I guess you got in your what's it called? The firm or whatever?
Yeah.
You get in there and it's like, all right, are you going to teach me or... And they're like, nah, not really.
No, nothing. They didn't say anything. No.
So like, you had the benefit that you kind of already had so much experience, like just networking and doing this, like
100%.
through cup promoting and through that what's it called?
ACM.
ACM. So like, what were some of the tactics that you used? Like,
That's such a great question, man, because that's 100% what has separated me from, because I've recruited a lot of agents since then. I've tried to do the Brent thing to pay it forward.
Yeah.
I even did that with my closest buddy, that one of the guys that I grew up with, one of the two dudes that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast,
from high school.
And I was like, yeah, man, it's pretty easy. You just do this. You just go out and do it. And it's easy to say, but it's really hard to do. And so when I sat down, I still remember this day, I had a yellow notepad, and I was like, going in there to take notes. I was going to I asked my broker, I was like, all right, so what do I need to do? Can you train me? Like, there's no training, because in ACN, there is like ungodly amount of training.
Yeah.
There's training on training on training, and then YouTube videos of trainings, and then like recordings, and then people would pass you CDs of people that talked at some training. So there's just so much training that I was used to that. And then I got into the real estate, and there was not a single ounce of training. Nothing.
Yep.
And I was talking to my broker, I was like, anything. You got anything? And they're like, just go out and start doing it. Like, and then you'll figure it out. I'm like, geez, okay, that's not what I expected. And so it's like, okay, if no one's going to help me, then I have to just do what I know best. And I'm just going to make ACN real estate. And so what we do in ACN is when someone first got started, then we'd have them go through their phone and then literally write down every single name and number on a notepad, and then just write down like hundreds of names and numbers on their notepads.
Right.
And like, dude, everybody, like, yeah, you have 1,200 people on your phone. This is going to take a while. And so they would just write down all the names and numbers. It would take forever, man. So I did that for real estate. And then I just went through every morning, and I'd start calling people every morning, and then sometimes I would get people on the phone, and then I would put different like dashes. So a dash would be I called, they didn't answer. A check would be I called, they did answer, and then either way I would always text them afterwards. If I called them and they didn't answer, I'd text them, hey, I just called you, blah, blah, blah. If I called them and they did answer, then I'd text them afterwards to recap the conversation I just had.
Right. So what was your strategy when you called? Like, just
so it's straight up, man. It was just pounding the pavement. And so I would write notes after on the notepad what I would say during the phone call, and like follow up. I would use FU as a follow up or X as a don't follow up. Mm-hmm. But I would just be like, hey, just want to let you know that I'm doing apartment locating now in real estate. Do you, when's your lease coming up? I'm trying to get everyone's leases. So that's kind of like what I would do with ACN is I would call everyone I know. And I would say, hey, I'm helping people save money on their services. And then I just want to quickly ask you a couple questions. Who are you with? AT&T, Verizon? How much are you paying per month? How about your electricity bill? Who are you with? How much are you paying? So I do the same thing, but just with real estate.
So you're just planning it for the future. Like, tell me when your lease is up.
Yeah, exactly.
You would know when to follow.
So if it's 9 months from now, I'd say, okay, now I have in pages and pages and pages of leads that I know in 9 months I just need to call them back or I need to text them back.
Yeah.
And so I would start chronologically ordering them, and like, okay, now that I have all the information, I know everyone that's in this city and that city and when their leases are up, now I just need to start knocking it down. And so I would start my day with that, and then just set up as many possible leases as possible in the morning. And then at night afterwards, then I would go to the bars and just start the conversations, happy hours and stuff like that, and just try to find new leads just through conversations.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what I always did. So it was just whatever, and it worked. And I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
And so I was able to make like, always, I was at the top earners in our company, like first year going on, 100, 150, 200,000. I was aiming for $300,000 whenever I left Houston to start all over again in Dallas.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then ever since then, I mean, I'm currently top producer in the company now. I was top producer like last year, and
yeah, this man living nice. He riding around in a Tesla. Got a pretty nice place over here.
Yeah, I mean,
like he living the dream right now, basically. But I mean, that's what everybody thinks. That's why everybody gets into real estate, I guess, because they kind of want that freedom. Because you kind of like your own boss type thing. It's kind of like your own business. You do your own marketing. You do your own this. But a lot of people that come into it, they don't have the prior experience of like a promoter or like all that. So they just kind of go in it. And I guess what would you recommend for people that don't have like that past experience, that past confidence with like going out to talking to people? Because there's like a bunch of options, I guess, right? There's like you could get into a real estate team. But if you get into a real estate team, like they take a percentage of like whatever leases you get and all that, but in return you get, I guess, some leads from them, and you get what else do you get? I guess their mentorship and stuff like that. Yeah. Or you could like pay for like mentorship maybe for like a service like Tom Ferry. You know, there's all these real estate
Tom
coaches
Ferry for sure.
But what would you recommend?
So I moved from Houston to Dallas to start the Dallas office, and then I started recruiting a bunch of agents because, hey, that's what I've been doing my whole life.
Right.
And so I started recruiting a bunch of agents and teaching them how I did it. And then I was like, hey, I made this, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. Now I've finally tuned it to where I've been able to restart. I restart from scratch in Dallas. Like I made over 6 figures in my first year in Dallas with no leads and no help at all. I just got here and I planted here, and I was like, it's luck if you do it once, it's skill if you do it twice. And so I got here and I was like, damn, I did it again. Like that's badass. I was like, I could teach people how to do this. I can clone this. And so I mean, I had a team of like 15 agents at one point, and then I was teaching them exactly what to do, and I realized that I was failing them because a lot of them weren't successful. There was Carver right now. He was an agent from another company making very little income. He came over, he started doing what I told him to do. Now he's one of their top earners at our company, easily doing over 6 figures every year. There's a couple other agents that implemented it and did really well. But I realized that I couldn't be in a leadership position anymore. I needed to just do my own thing, and that's why I'm doing my own thing right now.
What do you think?
Because there's not an answer to what you just asked.
Yeah.
You need to find what works for you. My personality worked with that system. But there's other people that we recruited that are like moms and have kids and live out in the middle of Grapevine or like up north, and they're trying to do what I did and it doesn't work. Yeah. So really you just got to be true to yourself and say, who am I? Not who do I want to be, but who actually am I? Am I the hungry guy that's going to go out and knock on doors and then call expired listings and, you know, go out to do I care about my ego? Do I care about being embarrassed?
Rejected,
yeah. And so is it going to be awkward for me to start conversations with people at bars, happy hours? Am I scared to be on the phone? Am I scared to text people? Do I mind bothering people? If that's the case, then my method doesn't work at all for that. And I tried to force it on people, and it just didn't work.
That's the only method, though, I guess, in real estate. Like, you have to get out there, right?
Not necessarily. And so if you're more of the type that is very hands-off and timid and skittish, first of all, you need to be true to yourself, and it might not work out. Anytime that you join real estate, it might not work out because there's no guaranteed success. You create your own success. And so if you're not the hungry, aggressive attacker, then you're more of a defender. And attackers are the ones that go out and hunt. And then defenders are the ones that stay in the village and farm. And if you're going to farm in real estate, you got to be prepared to have a very long game. And it's going to be difficult to see success right out of the gate. Now, if you're 10 years in, you're farming for 10 years. What
you said if you're gonna farm in real estate?
So farming in real estate means that it's literally that. So people that are more timid, they join like a Keller Williams or a whatever, Remax or just like a big box chain.
Exactly.
And they tell you to go send out like handwritten mail to all your friends and family, and then consistently do that like every month or every 3 months, and then also go to the area of town that you want to sell in and consistently send handwritten mail to them and talk about.
So it's more so like you hide behind the envelopes, hiding behind the social media, hiding behind
very hands-off way of building real estate, and it is effective. But it just takes a very long time, and you have to stay consistent, and you have to spend extra money. For me to go out and buy a drink at a bar and get $1,200 from one conversation was easy. It's such an easy thing, and it's like $5 done tomorrow, $1,200. Great ROI. This is fantastic. I want to do this all the time. But spending hundreds of dollars on postage, on sending out mail just over and over again over years just to get one sale. So you spent thousands and thousands of dollars over years marketing to this territory just to sell a house, and you get half the commission on the house, which is like maybe $6,000. So you might have gained over 3 years like a $2,000 profit, maybe $3,000 after taxes. Who knows? So maybe $2,000.
Yeah.
And so it only makes sense if you have it in masses. So if you sell multiple homes in the area, then it starts making sense. But still, it's like, man, talk about a long game. Like that is not for me.
Yeah. So either you go out there and hunt, you know, you go talk to people, door knock and stuff, get rejected, but that's like quicker, cheaper, or you could do this other thing like the social media marketing, the sending out letters and stuff like that.
Which is kind of where I'm at now in my business. Now I've done so much business that my business is pretty kind of like kind of on autopilot, and so that's why I just post on social media and like YouTube and Instagram, just because it's coasting right now.
Because I feel like from what I've learned, like because I've studied like some courses and stuff like that, not on like real estate specifically, but like I guess on business, and they talk about like when you're trying to get your first clients, like it makes sense to do the hunting method, you know, because like it's this foundational, and then when you scale, you could do like the marketing, you know, put it on content and stuff like that because you got money coming in, you know, you can do that, and that's more scalable too, you know, because everybody gets to see that. Yeah. So, I mean, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's true. That's kind of, like I said, that's kind of where I'm at in my business right now. Is that I love the analogy of the train. If you ever got a chance to read, like I think it's in Napoleon Hill, I don't know, but the train is a very heavy, like 1,000 tons or something like that. It's a very, very heavy piece of machinery. Yeah. And then for you to go and like push the train, the likelihood is it's not going to move. But the amount of force and energy it takes to get a train moving from the initial get-go is insane. And if there's a block of wood that's on the track in front of the wheel, then it won't go. Now, if the train's already moving and it's at full speed and the momentum and the inertia is just going out of control, then you put that block of wood in there and it's not going to do nothing. And you put a steel wall in front of it, it's going to go through it. And that's what the power of Big Mo is, like a Darren Hardy and compound effect talks about. Oh, yeah. Is once your momentum is rocking, then it's really easy just to basically just tap the gas and it just keeps going. But in the beginning stages, you got to get that train moving, and so that takes a ridiculous amount of effort. Like you need to be willing to like die for what you do, and that energy and that passion and that conviction is what pushes you through the hard times. Get addicted to the no's, like they say, and then just be totally fine and don't take it personally. Get inspired every time someone tells you no, or every time you get rejected. Be like, that's one step closer to a yes. Yeah. And just get fired up about that.
Do you think somebody like timid and stuff like that can like change into that, or is it kind of something that you gotta have? You gotta be hungry because you were hungry because of your situation, maybe, or whatever. You think somebody coming in that maybe they didn't really live such a rough life, you know, like they kind of like just chilling, but they're kind of timid. Do you think they could change themselves somehow?
I have my own personal beliefs about that, and I don't think that that's fair. Like, I don't think it's fair to you, and I don't think it's fair to society for you to change. You should just be yourself. Yeah. And if yourself isn't made for real estate, don't force it.
But what if yourself isn't made for like having good career, you know? Like, what if the qualities that you lack are like messing you up in your job or something?
I mean, you can always do personal growth. Personal growth is very important. But some people are timid and scared and
that's just
nervous, and that's just what they are. And then the idea of going out and having conversations with people, I hear this all the time about guys that have a hard time talking to girls or something like that. Yeah. And like they take all these courses on how to talk to girls, and like they get out there and they try to do magic tricks whenever they're like doing in the bar and stuff like that, and like you're trying to do something and it feels forced and it's weird. Like we all know it's weird, you know it's weird, and then people try to like just keep doing it. I know it's weird, but eventually it'll become natural. It's like that's not natural. Naturally, you are natural. And so you might just be a timid person, and there are women out there that like timid people, and those are timid women, and that's fine. And then when you guys meet, you're like, wow, this is what I've been looking for, and they like that timidness. And if you come to those people that you would have actually connected with, and you come strong with that, like, yo, I'm alpha male, BS, and blah, 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 then they're going to be shied off from that. And then that's actually the people you should be with. Yeah. Because you fake your way into a position that you'll get to, sure. You might get there. Yeah. by faking it. But once you're there, you're not going to like it because that's not true to who you are.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. And let me restart my camera real quick, and I'll tell you why. It's interesting that you say that. Hold on, let me sit down real quick. It's interesting that you say that because I asked Sean, like, hey, bro, so you always been extroverted? Like, you always been good at sales and stuff? And he was like, nah, man. I was timid at once. Like, so for him, I guess he probably wouldn't agree with what you were saying. What do you think about Sean?
So I think that Sean and I are very alike in a lot of ways, but there's some things that we just disagree with.
So you think he's always kind of like low-key been like good at sales or extroverted?
And so I've known Sean long enough to know that I don't think that he was ever timid.
Yeah.
I think that he's just super awkward. If you go back and you look at old school videos of him, he was, and pictures and stuff like that, like he was always like, he was a band nerd and like he was all into music, but he was still, he just is, and he still is just an awkward person, but he's like hyper intelligent, and so that's what makes him awkward, because he looks at people in like a way that like he tries to figure them out, like everyone's a puzzle, and so like I'm just trying to enjoy an experience, and then he would just kind of look at you like a cat and be like, how do I solve this puzzle? Like there's something that I can, there's an angle that I can take, and once I get there it is, and then he unlocks it and he's like, hey, and that's how he sees happiness. And so whenever I think he worked on himself to get more extroverted, I think more what the correct way, and this is me speaking for him, so I mean let him.
That is your opinion, right?
Yeah, it's my opinion. But I think that it was more along the ways of him becoming more himself, like allowing the awkwardness to fit into a society's standards where it doesn't feel so awkward. And I think we all felt that way. I mean, I had an awkward laugh for a long time in my life. I still do. And so that's why if I'm actually cracking up, I have to hold my hand over my mouth because I'm like, and so we find ways that we can improve the best parts of ourselves and make them shine more. And then the parts of ourselves that we feel a little uncomfortable with, some people improve them to a certain level, but you can only improve it so much, while other people are self-shaming and they hide that part of themselves. And if you hide that part of yourself that you're shameful about, then and you try to be only this, then it's going to show, and people are going to feel that unauthentic part of yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. Well,
but I mean, I'm not the one that knows it all. I'm trying to live a life that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And you could make significantly more money if you were like, that person makes money. I just need to act, talk, walk, do, think, read, and say everything he does. And if I can copy that, then I can have that lifestyle. There's truth to that. But my only thing is I just warn people that if they were to do that, then when they get that person's life, then that's going to be that person's life. It's not going to be their life. And then they're not going to feel happy. They're not going to feel fulfilled. And they're just going to feel empty and depressed and alone in their badass penthouse mansion.
Yeah.
And they're like, this isn't even what I want. This isn't what I, like, this is not the life I wanted. And people are like, you're weird. Why are you depressed? You have the life. I want your life. Why are you depressed?
Right.
It's like, well, because this isn't my life. I have the life. It's just not my life. I would have been happier hanging out in my mom's basement playing World of Warcraft and then doing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends.
Yeah.
Versus this lifestyle that is just not me, you know.
So you just kind of live your truth, I guess, basically.
Live your truth, yeah. And happiness does not equal millions. Like, you don't have to be a millionaire to be happy, especially in the new world society, the new society that's coming up because of AI and technology and everything like that. I think we're going to see a lot less emphasis on being millionaires and more emphasis on just being authentic.
Right.
And just what do you actually do that makes you happy?
I mean, we see that being preached a lot more, like with people, Gary Vee, people like that, you know. But that's cool, man. But taking it back to real estate a little bit.
So the meaning of life.
I know we're talking about life right now. I just kind of realized, like, oh, this is a real estate thing. Anyways.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So just to, that's cool. That
for those of you listening,
because I think it's important, you know, like, like the way you think is like affects the way like you work and the way like everything else in your work life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
So that's really important to touch on. But what would you say is like, I guess some real estate myths that people have, you know? Because like, that's my little sister. I was like, I'm gonna talk to a real estate agent guy. Like, what would you like me to ask him? And be like, she was like, Is it possible to make a lot of money without like screwing people over? Because I guess that's a misconception. Because like I guess my uncle was like, because she lives with my uncle, and I guess he has that misconception that like people in sales like they'll screw you over, you know, to get their commission and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
there's two ways to answer this. So one way is whatever you do, you're going to do it either way. So if you're a corrupt person, then you're going to be corrupt in real estate, you're going to be corrupt in politics, you're going to be corrupt in the church. Like, just because you're a pastor doesn't make you a bad person, but if you're a bad person as a pastor, then you're a bad person, right?
Yeah.
And so there are bad people that do real estate and they do bad things, but there's also bad people who do everything. And so if you focus on only the actions that the bad people do in every profession, then every profession could be bad. But for me, in my experience in real estate, I don't see a lot of room for there to be corruption. I know it does exist, but ultimately, it's just like we talked about earlier. It's 100% like the TV sales at Best Buy. It's you come to me, you say you want a house, and then I send you a list of all the houses that are on the market. We narrow it down to the ones you like. Then we go look at them, and then you say, okay, cool, I want to buy it. We put in an offer. How much do you want to put in an offer for it?
Yeah.
$300,000? Great. Put an offer for $300,000. And then we enter a contract and you close and you have a house. Where in that can you screw people over? I don't know. Now on the sales side, you say you want to sell a house for $300,000. And then I say, okay, well, your house is worth $100,000, so you're insane. And none of the other houses in this area are worth $300,000. It's $100,000. You live in the ghetto, not in the ghetto. I'm sorry. In Dallas, if it's $100,000, it's going to be in a up and coming area.
Right.
So you have to. The only way that it could possibly corrupt is in that conversation. Is if you allow someone to list their house for way more than it is, and then it sits on the market for way longer than it should, and then they look at you like you're doing something wrong. It's like, no, your house, you're trying to sell, a Ford truck for $300,000. No one's gonna buy that Ford truck. Like, they can just go buy another one right down the street for like $35,000 or $15,000, whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's the only thing I can imagine really screwing people over in. Or if someone wants to sell their house for $300,000 and it's worth $300,000, and you convince them to take an offer for $250,000, then maybe that's screwing someone over. But then at that point, that's their decision. Like, are you willing to take a $50,000 hit on it? How bad do you want to sell the house? So how do we screw people over? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's just like,
I do get that a lot. You're like, oh, you're in sales, you're a real estate agent, you're a slimy salesman. It's like, dude, my sales is not like the way that I guess I do it differently, but the way that I do real estate sales is not sales.
You just try to give them what they want.
It's like you come to me and you want this, and here it is. Do you want it or not? I don't say you need to have it. You know what really hurt our industry is like HGTV and all those like reality shows
like
where it's
Ryan Serhant, people like that,
and all those house hunters and stuff like that. All that is all BS. People need to do research. That's not true. It's all reality TV. None of that stuff, none of those shows, Fix and Flip and all that stuff, they're all fake. And so people think that that's how real estate is. How weird is that? Like, if anybody, how weird is this? You're going to come to me and say you want a house, and I'm going to show you 3 different houses that you've never seen before in different areas of town at different price points.
Yeah.
And then once you decide which one you want, then I tell you the price. And it's like, oh, that's out of our budget. And it's like, well, can you make it work? Like, how bad do you want this house? That is not how real estate works at all. That is absurd. They're not even approved for it. You have to approve for a loan for a certain amount of money. Why would any agent show them something way over what they can afford? It's just stupid premise for stupid shows. Then people think that's what real estate is, and it sucks.
It's the media.
It's just media, man.
Well, now you get the power to make your own media, right? Mm-hmm. So that's actually what you've been doing recently. You actually hired on a videographer. But what's so crazy to me is that I feel like you said, like maybe timid people try to find like the easy way out, and they do that maybe even earlier before they can even afford it. Mm-hmm. Instead of just actually going and doing like the door knocking, the calling, and all that.
Yeah.
So what led to your decision to say, all right, I probably should start like putting out more content or something like that?
So it was twofold. I have so anybody that's listening, there's a thing called BHAG, and so there's your goals, and then you have your big, hairy, atrocious, audacious, whatever goals, whatever it is. It's big in real estate. A lot of the real estate mentors talk about like how to set up your design your business. But I hit my basic level goal this year, like a few months in. Like 4 months in, I hit my yearly long goal, and I was like, oh damn,
yeah,
sweet. And so then it was June or July, I hit my second tier goal. And then my BHAG or whatever, the big goal that I shouldn't even hit, that was on the horizon. And I had 2 deals that once I finished those deals, it was going to happen. And those deals were already going through, which they ended up falling out, which kind of bummed about that.
Yeah, but, that's how real estate goes too. Like you could be working so much on this deal, and if they back out or whatever, it's like you just spent all that time, all that money for nothing, right?
And I focused on that so much that I let the other parts of my business go. So, I mean, I still hit way over what I should have hit this year, but I mean, between both those deals, like $50,000 deals. So I was going to hit like 100,000 just between those 2 deals I was working on. And they were already full weighted. But anyways, that's not the point of what I'm talking about. But what was the original question? I'm sorry.
It was what led you to want to start putting out content and doing social media?
And so now that I hit my goals and I had like extra free time, I was like, I could just take off the rest of the year and just travel the rest of the year. But instead of doing that, I was like, you know what? I can just take 30,000, whatever, and just invest $40,000 into like media.
Yeah.
And then I know it's not going to pay off immediately, but I feel like next year the entire industry is changing. Especially over the next 5 years, the entire industry is going to change significantly. And those of us that aren't prepared for it are going to just die. Not physically, but you know. I think that with Zillow and all the things that Zillow is doing right now, if you can, feel free to research that. And these e-buyers and how everyone used to have a certain way of finding homes or apartments, and now it's all going to online, and just people are more and more just being on social media, finding whatever they want to find
themselves.
They're
cutting out the real estate.
People are getting so self-sufficient that there's like no reason for us anymore, that we need to adapt to that as real estate agents and just come forth with just value. Like come forth with just like, hey, listen, here's all this stuff that you need to know if you want to do it on your own. Like go out and do it on your own all you want. But I want to make sure that you know ahead of time exactly what you're getting yourself into and how to handle it. And then just put that freely out there and just enjoy the fact that you're doing like a public service, I guess you might say.
Yeah.
And then if you push water out, like if you're in a bathtub, if you push water out, then it's going to come back towards you, typically. And so the idea is if you put out enough good content and you help enough people, eventually life is going to take care of you.
Yeah. So you're putting out the best possible content you can, right? Like you're giving out all the secrets,
all
right?
All the secrets.
Because like I've come across some people that maybe they want to put out some content, but they're like, no, we can't give them that. Like they kind of try to be secretive, you know what I'm saying?
But I think that's the last. So there's different phases of life, and there's different phases of like trends. And so YouTube, let's just talk about YouTube specifically.
Yeah.
YouTube started off the first trend in any kind of emerging market kind of thing that's social media. It's all about shock and awe. So it's just like people doing stupid stuff. And then it's like, oh my God, that's weird. Just like Vine or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then it was, okay, we're going to hijack TV shows and movies and put them on YouTube, and then people can like search things that they want to see. And then people are like, oh, I can make like content on there. And then, oh my God, I can monetize my content, but I can't figure out how to monetize it. And then some guru comes in and says, click funnels, and then also you're going to give them 80% or 70% of what you're trying to give them and take away the carrot, and then you have to go to this special thing on my website and click for the rest of the actual content. And then that is where you start paying, and that's how you monetize it. You all should do that. And so then you go through that phase, and eventually people get used to that and they start to tune out to it, and you finally get the most authentic phase, which is just, I'm going to give content and you can do whatever you want with it. And if you give enough value to people, then a lot of times you build enough trust to where they just say, I'm going to work with you because you've already done so much for me that I feel like I need the reciprocity effect. Like I need to give back in some way.
Yeah.
If you give so much to someone, then they just feel the need to give back. And that is by working with you, if that's ideally the scenario. But it's not going to work for everybody. Not everyone feels that way, but eventually you'll get business that way.
Yeah.
It's more authentic.
I mean, it sounds right, you know, because like we just talked about earlier, y'all have like the bad rep of maybe being sleazy salesmen already, and you have like the industry's changing with the Zillow thing, so y'all have to like really trust is like the main thing now, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So
a secret to real estate, if you really want to get down to like the secret.
Oh, the secret sauce.
Don't tell anybody.
Okay. Let us know.
The secret in success in real estate, above all things, is that people just want to work with someone that they like. That's it.
You're pretty likable, yeah.
Thanks, man. But they're going through a big situation in their life, especially if you're buying a house. If it's an apartment, they just want this, like, oh, you're cool, dude. Yeah, I'll put your name down, or I'll go with you. I'll ride with you in a car. I trust you. You just seem like you know what you're talking about. Yeah, whatever. Like it's a very low. It's a low blip on the map of stress. It's just like, yeah, you seem cool. Whatever, let's do it. But when it comes to a house, it's like, oh man, I've never done this before, or last time I did it was really stressful. And the last thing I want is some salesy, hi, what's going on? Let's go out there and check out some homes. All right. Like, the last thing they want is to deal with that guy for potentially months. Like, they just want to be around someone that cares about them, or they feel like they care about them, and then is going to guide them through the process. And when things get stressful, they know that they can calm them down, and they're competent enough not to screw up the deal. That's really what it is. Yeah. So if you're likable, or you work more on yourself and more on your likability, and less necessarily on like learning what the exact tax parcel ID plot of land is and stuff like that. Work on yourself and just be the best version of yourself, and it will give you significantly more money.
So be the best version of yourself. That's how you become more likable.
Yeah, just be the most authentic version of yourself. Unless you're authentically an a-hole, and then you should probably work on that.
Damn, I had a question, but I forgot. All right. Well, I guess the last question could be.
Did I take care of all the myths? Like, did your sister only? That's the only thing she was worried about is sleaziness.
She asked me another question. I know she didn't have that many good questions, to be honest. Her other question was like, how do you deal with like people when they just when you what was it? When you're working so hard for this person to buy like a house and they just back up in the end.
Oh man, that just happened to me. I just lost a deal. It was a $9,000 deal. The client had to back out. Oh man, that happened twice in the last couple of months. It's hard, man. It's rough, but and it still affects me. But the best way to do it for me is I have to always tell myself I didn't lose $9,000 because I never had it. And so you can't mentally spend your money before it's in your bank, and that's like the most. It's the most healthy way to look at it whenever it comes to losing deals, is because it was just an idea, and you can't get upset about an idea going away,
right?
Because it wasn't reality. And you got to ask yourself, is there anything I could have done to prevent that from happening? And if so, then never do that again. Don't mess up again. But if it wasn't your fault and it was the fault of the buyer, then you say, okay, well, two things. One, whatever, move on. Like, don't let it break you. Like, emotional roller coasters will take you on a ride that you don't want to be on. Stay neutral. And the second thing you need to ask yourself is, I need to be more cautious of my time in the future. I need to qualify my clients better. And so this is a first-time home buyer. They're in this price point that normally wastes my time. I need to be more specific about my price point, because they're tire kickers in a certain price point. And
do you have a certain like demographic that you try to target? Like, you already got your customer in mind of what it is?
Yes. Technically no, but technically yes. You find there's a certain kind of people out there that jive with you more than others, and it's dependent on the person. It's not. There's certain kind of clientele that I work with that I just don't like.
You're just not the best fit for them.
Yeah, not the best fit. People have a weird way of thinking. Like, not everyone thinks the same.
Exactly.
Like, it's easy to think that everyone thinks like you because you've only thought you. You've never thought like someone else before. But there are a lot of people that are on different frequencies and wavelengths that you just are like, dude, where is your head at right now? Why? This is a weird reaction for you to have to this situation. But if they're with someone else that reacts the same way, then it makes more sense.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, and so for me, there's certain people that I found in certain price ranges that I tend to do really well with, and so that's kind of what I market to and I focus on. And when any time that I go out of that, if a friend is like, "Hey, can you help me out?" and then I'm like, all right, and it ends up being a 3-month-long endeavor, and they don't end up buying, and then it ends up being a total waste of time, and then we don't become friends anymore because then they're stressed out, and as much as I love you, I just honestly don't want to help you. I'm sorry. You need to go to somebody else because I want to maintain our friendship.
Is that a rule for you? You don't help out friends?
Nuts. So that has been a rule, and then this year I broke it twice, and both times it
Screwed
didn't
you
turn
over?
up. Yeah, I was like, dude, this is why I don't do this.
Oh man.
But yeah, the best way to handle it is just to not spend the money mentally before you get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So final question, so I can let you go, because this man's got to go on a little getaway trip,
Yeah,
right?
going out to the nature.
Nature.
We have a family property out in Glen Rose, so we're going to go to Fossil Rim. Do you know what Fossil Rim is?
I don't think so. No.
So you basically drive through a park and like zebras and giraffes.
Oh, I
and
heard of
stuff like
that.
Yeah, they'll come to the car. You get to hang out with some exotic animals,
I gotta go there.
and then afterwards, just gonna go to the family property and just shoot some guns and hang out with cows and stuff.
Shoot some guns. That sounds very Texan of you.
Yeah.
All right. So final question. I guess what would be your piece of advice for people that are thinking about coming into real estate, especially since you just said it's changing a lot and it's gonna be a lot harder since like, you know, Zillow and all that, and you're already at the top. You're already kind of like have an established business. Somebody coming up might hear that and be like, all right, maybe I shouldn't try to do that since it's gonna change. Like, what would you recommend? Do it? Nah, maybe. Or?
So that's tough, man, because we're in a transition period right now in life in general in America. We have an election coming up next year. There's huge talks of recession next year. I mean, all indicators point to there needs to be a recession. Like there needs to be, or else we're already over our heads with what's happening. Anyway, it's a different conversation. So potentially there's a recession next year. So getting started as a real estate agent during the recession is going to be really tough as well. All the old forms that when you get started and you take all the trainings to learn about how to become a successful real estate agent, that's all based on people that have been successful in the past in the old way of doing real estate, not the new way.
Yeah.
And so over the next 5 years, it's going to totally change. And so all the stuff that you learned is not going to be necessarily applicable. Right. And so it's a tough time to get started in real estate right now. But that is a negative and you shouldn't do it. But for those people that are very strong-willed and they're just down to, some people, like Arnold Schwarzenegger once said that if it's never been done, that means that's the reason why I want to do it, because I want to like hold the record or I want to set the bar or whatever it is. Right. So some people, when they say it's never been done, they're like, oh, okay, then I'm not going to do it. Right. Other people say, oh, let's do it. So if it being the worst time to start real estate, basically going into recession and with the market changes and technology changes and everything, if that scares you, then you shouldn't do real estate. But if that excites you, then you're the kind of person to do really good in real estate. Because to me, when I got started, if someone told me what I just said, then I would get excited. I'd be like, that means that my competition is going to be really sparse. They don't know what they're doing. And then I can just learn from a fresh mind, so I learn the right way. And then all the weaklings are going to drop out. Like all the weak people drop out when things get hard. And I know I'm not weak. And so that means that I can rise above and take all their clients. And there's not enough people out there for me to be successful currently. But once you filter everyone out and I take everybody, then I can be rich. Yeah. And so if you're the kind of person that thrives in tough environments, then you'll do very well. But if you want someone to spoon feed you, then I think that the ride is over. I think
it's only going to get harder from here, basically.
It's pretty much only going to get... You have to be super adaptable and super willing to get out of your comfort zone from here on out. The last 10 years of real estate has been just easy street. And then I think that people are going to be up for a rude awakening in the next couple of years.
Damn. Fire. That's the truth, man. You dropped the truth bomb right now. I wish I had the sound effects. You know how they have them on the podcast? All right, man. Well, that was this episode of the Come Up with Mr. Sean Ray. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Don't give up on your dreams.
Yeah.
I like a quote that's that if you work harder on yourself than you do on your business, then life is going to be easy. It doesn't matter, whatever. We're already done with the podcast.